Good morning, everyone. We welcome you for the first year of our sixth annual virtual conference of Telangana Ophthalmological Society Conference. We are here in Dr. M.M. Joshi Hall. I cordially invite Dr. L.V.K. Raju as our Chief Instructor for the Instructor Course 1. Doctor, please take over.
Good morning, everyone. At the outset, we thank Chairman Scientific Committee of TOS for giving this opportunity to present FACO in challenging situations. I have a very eminent co-instructors with me. Now I invite Dr. Arvind Kumar Maurya, who is Additional Professor and HOD of Ophthalmology at AIIMS, Bibinagar. Sir, it's to you.
Thank you, sir. I am unable. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity, Telangana Ophthalmic Society. So I will be speaking on terminal chop, a new nuclear fragmentation technique, especially for the hardest of the cataract. So it was a new technique for nuclear fragmentation, introduced and invented by Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and it is best suited for medium to hard grade of cataract. It reduces surgical time and chances of complication. And this technique was first published in IGO in 2016. So it is based on the Griffith's theory of brittle fracture. So you can see very lean and thin fellow dealing with a hard rock. So based on the theory of Griffith's brittle fracture, this is how it's been done. So we have applied the same principle in phacoemulsification. So what is the basis or principle of this surgical technique of this terminal chop? First, you need to have a good capsular axis, 5.25 to 5.75. Then a short superficial central tent needs to be given of 1 into 1 into 1 millimeter size to create, to hold and engage the phaco tip. Then the phaco settings are changed to very high vacuum settings of 450 to 500 millimeter of Hg with 50% power and 35 millimeter per minute of AFR. Then the phaco tip is engaged at the distal end of the trench. Then phaco probe is impaled superficially, keeping the tip directed towards the equator, parallel to the pupillary plane to achieve a firm hold of the nucleus just within the equator. Then the equator is drawn within the capsulotomy edge. It's every step is in the bag only, and under direct visualization, a wedge-shaped blunt olive tip chopper terminator is simply passed around the lens equator. Then this terminator is then simply dragged 1.5 to 2 millimeter through the open edge equator to create a small groove. This dragging generates tension and dispersive forces and transverse forces along the sides of the groove, consonant to drag pick and rock excavation system, and initiates a full thickness nuclear crack. And this full thickness crack traverses automatically across the lens to the other end of the equator and divides the nucleus into two equal halves, as seen. So this is the tool, the wedge-shaped tool with the olive tip, known as terminator chopper. So this is how the heminuclei are separated. This is the video. So you can see this is the wedge-shaped inner edge. This is the terminator chopper with the blunt olive tip. So it doesn't damages the capsular axis or the posterior capsule. This is the inner wedge-shaped edge. So it's a cataract bruminescence, very hard cataract, brown to black. So superficial impalement with the phaco tip. Then with the help of this terminator chopper, it goes behind the equator under the direct visualization at the capsulotomy edge, and quite easily this hardest of the cataract is divided into two pieces. This is a little bit softer cataract, grade 3 of nucleus cataract, starting from the center in the superficial impalement, and in the capsulotomy edge, again this terminator chopper is dragged and it is divided into two heminuclei from right to left side. So again, the same process is repeated with the heminuclei also. to divide into further pieces, subnuclei, going behind the equator and dividing. Again, one video. So our axis of 5.5, superficial impalement, and dividing into 2. Again, repeating the process with the 1 heminuclei, and phacoemulsification is completed quite easily. Again, a soft cataract, grade 2. So superficial impalement of the phacotip, and with the help of terminate chopper, divided into 2 heminuclei. Then the subnuclear. So it's a very safe and simple technique of doing phacoemulsification in the hardest of the cataract. We have modified our technique. The phacoparameters are kept in moderate range, and instead of using a special chopper, terminator simple chopper or dialer can also be used. And we have operated all grades of cataract using this technique. So what is the difference with other techniques? In this terminal chop technique, the instruments tip move away from each other at the equator, and it propagates the initial crack into a full thickness fracture, transverse fracture in low compressive stress. In horizontal chop, the instruments tip move towards each other in horizontal plane at the equator, and the phaco probe is deeply and it's towards the direction is towards the optic nerve, and it creates a stressful compressive force. In the vertical chop, the instrument tip move towards each other in vertical plane, and the direction of the sharp chopper is towards the optic nerve, and it creates in plane shearing force with very high stress. Whereas in terminal chop, the phaco probe and both the choppers, they are parallel to the iris plane. So it has been published also and presented in ESCRS also. So there are a lot of myths regarding this technique, that it is a blind procedure, but as you have seen all the videos, we are doing it under direct visualization. Some say that it has more chances of PCR, but we are using a blunt olive tip, so they are comparable. Some say that they have more chances of endothelial cell loss and post-op edema. They are comparable or lesser. So science can't be a myth or hearsay. It will always be a reality. Thank you. Over to you, Sai sir.
Yeah.
So we believe in smart work rather than doing hard work while dealing with the hardest of the cataract.
Let us if we have small pupil, how to make it large? We can do it by chemical dilatation, or we can do by mechanical or surgical dilatation, or we can use pupil dilating devices as aided dilatation, or we can sometimes we need to combine all these things. And when we don't have any of these things, how to go about phaco also we will discuss. Only the dilated pupils preoperatively, when they undergo intraoperative meiosis, they respond to the chemical dilatation. A rigid pupil refractory to dilatation preoperatively will not respond to the chemical dilatation. Intracameral adrenaline, phenocaine, these are helpful in dilatation. And lignocaine is helpful in maintenance of the dilatation. And we can have multiple microsphincterotomies, and then followed by stretch pupilloplasty or sectoridectomy when we have a small pupil situation. But these procedures will increase the floppiness of the iris, and they may result into iris prolapse through the small side ports or main incision. Even the sodium hyaluronate viscoelastic will be mechanically dilating the pupil when we put into the antechamber in this stage. We can have a dilated pupil like this. When we we also have pupil dilating devices. Here we are using, want to share Marcher's pupil dilating ring. It is a PMMA material made ring which has got a groove like thing. So into that groove will nudge the pupillary border. The disadvantage with this is like we can only, if it's a mid-dilated people only, we can use this ring. If smaller peoples, it will be very difficult and also a bit traumatic. And now we have a dilated pupil. When we have a situation like this, first we need to, it's a complicated cataract. First we need to remove the uveatic membrane at the pupillary the border. Then do multiple micro sphincterotomies with a controlled manner, in a controlled manner. With sodium hyaluronate will be very helpful in this situation to maintain the antechamber. After we need to make four, depending upon the necessity, a number of side ports. These side ports should be little limbal than anterior. The limbal iris hook should be placed a little posteriorly to prevent the tenting of iris tissue when they are placed anteriorly. Because more side ports are there during the phaco, there can be chance of shallow AC. So we need to increase the bottle height, lower the parameters of parameters like aspiration flow rate and vacuum. The main advantage of with these iris hooks are even in the smallest people also we can apply these iris hooks, whereas other devices they are a little bit difficult to insert when the small people is there. But the disadvantage is that people may remain atonic, pupil dilatation, people may not come back to normal size. It can create sphincter damage. And the innovation is like Malugin ring. This is a very wonderful device. This is the injecting system. It comes as a preloaded system. We after injecting viscoelastic below the iris border, create a space between the lens and the iris tissue, and then this ring is injected. This ring will have loops at four corners. Through that loop, will nudge the iris border, pupillary border, and then we get a dilated pupil. The advantage with this ring is like AC will remain, it will not become shallow as it becomes in the iris with the iris hooks. And even the sphincter tears are less because the dilatation is uniformly distributed to the circumference. This is a new kit en bloc. There is a BX ring. Here we can have an hexagonal shaped material where one side of the hexagon goes below the iris and the adjacent side of the hexagon will remain above the iris. The main advantage with this is like this, it can be passed through 1 mm side port, and the removal is also very easy. Only disadvantage is like in very small peoples, it will be little difficult. At least in my hands, it was I had difficulty in applying this. Suppose when we don't have any of these things, the best friend of surgeon is the diligence. We have a post PKP patient here with a small pupil with a ring synechiae, 360-degree ring synechiae. The sodium hyaluronate is injected. They separate the synechiae, do the synechialysis, then wash the visco, and then push the sodium Tefan blue. Then remove the exudative membrane. Now wash the viscoelastic. After washing the viscoelastic, again implanted a Tefan blue. Tefan blue will be very helpful in making a rhexis in a small people. The rhexis border should go beyond the pupillary margin. The rhexis should be slightly larger than the pupil. In this situation, like Kelman tip will be very useful. Direct vertical chop with chopper will be helpful. Keep your tip, phaco tip in the center only. Don't face the pupillary border to the tip. Stay in the center of the pupil. We should not hurry. We should wait till the fragments come to the tip. We should not chase for the pieces, and we should stay away from the PC also. Better to have low to moderate vacuum and low to moderate bottle height. Avoid tremulousness in the turbulence in the antechamber, and least or no manipulation of the iris tissue. And wait till the fragments come to the tip of the phaco. We should not rush or hurry in the process. Then the these are few tips when we don't have any pupil dilating devices for doing phaco in a small pupil. That's the end of my talk. Thank you.
Excellently done, sir.
Now I invite Dr. Siddharam. He's a faculty at AIIMS BB Nagar to present his talk.
Good morning, seniors and colleagues. Thank you for giving me opportunity, Dr. LVK Raju sir and Arvind sir. I'm going to talk about phacoemulsification in complicated cataract. Cataract is the most common complication, followed by chronic iridocyclitis or topical steroids usage in uveitis patients. It accounts for 40% of the visual loss in these patients, and incidence of cataract in uveitis patient is 1.2%, and this type of cataract is surgically demanding with less predictable postoperative outcome. Timing of the surgery. Usually successful uveitic cataract surgery, the eye needs to be quiescent for at least 3 months before surgery. The disease is well controlled throughout the postoperative period. Preoperative evaluation is very important in these patients because we have to rule out like corneal opacity, vitreous opacity, cystoid macular edema associated with inflammatory processes which limit the visual prognosis. Therefore, the patient must be informed objectively on the visual expectations of the surgical procedure. The investigations we have to do for this complicated cataract, B scan to rule out vitreous opacities, OCT to rule out epiretinal membrane, cystoid macular edema, and fluorescence fluorescein angiography, any inflammation in the retinal vessels and optic nerve. I am going to start usually this uveitic patients with topical NSAIDs 3 days before the surgery, and we are going to extend 6 to 8 weeks after surgery. Along with that, I am going to start the topical prednisolone eye drops, 1 drops every 6th hourly in patients with anterior non-granulomatosis uveitis. And if it is complicated cataract associated with other conditions like granulomatous anterior uveitis, intermediate uveitis, pars planatis, I am going to add the systemic steroids like prednisolone 1 mg per kg per day, 3 to 7 days before the surgery. If topical systemic steroids is contraindicated, I am going to start giving the posterior subtena injection triamcinolone 40 mg 3 to 4 days before the surgery. How it is differs from other cataract surgery. Usually, cataract surgery is very challenging in complicated cataract because of patient factors and ocular factors. Patient factors, if you take consideration, patient is suffering from ankylosing spondylitis, there will be postural issues like kyphosis. That time you have to change the position of the table, OT table. Ocular factors already discussed like band keratopathy and corneal opacities and posterior synechias. This is how to manage these patients. Well, most of the time nowadays we are going to operate all patients under topical anesthesia, but complicated cataract, most of the time we prefer the peribulbar block because intraoperatively we are going to touch the iris, which leads to the pain during the surgery. That's why you are going to give the peribulbar block and try to avoid iris trauma during the surgery, which leads to intraoperative floppiness and leading to iris collapse intraoperatively. At the end of the surgery, most of the time we are going to give the posterior subtenon injections to prevent the post-operative inflammation. Already, LV Kesar discussed about small pupil syndrome. Just I will touch the small pupil without synechia. I am going to dilate it pharmacologically by using adrenaline or viscoelastic or mechanical dilatation with iris hooks and Melineer ring. If it is associated with peripheral anterior synechia, then you have to release the first peripheral anterior synechia by using viscoelastic, but you have to be very careful not detach the Descemet's membrane. And synechia, partial synechia, you can release by viscoelastic or Kuglin hooks. If it is small, total membranes occluding pupil, you can use microforceps to cut the membranes in the pupillary margin. Then sometimes it will dilate. If pupil is smaller than 4 mm, you can go for small sphincterotomies along with that Kuglin hooks or pupil expansion devices. You have to do capsular access minimum to 5 to 6 mm. If it is less than 5 mm, post-operative phimosis chances are more in these patients. If you do capsular access larger, there will be subluxation of intraocular lenses in the post-operative period. And try to use the trypan blue, which helps in contrast and facilitation visualization of the anterior capsule. Phaco, you have to, the phaco of choice is vertical chop technique, which is safer because the pupil is smaller. We are keeping the instrument in the center of the pupil, and we have to keep observe the and maintain the AC phacodynamics. Okay, we should not go beyond the pupillary margin. The choice of intraocular lens we are going to use in complicated patients are hydrophobic single piece acrylic IOLs and avoid AC IOL iris flaw lenses during intraoperative postcapsular rupture because it can lead to posterior post-operative inflammation. If the uncontrolled postcapsular rupture, wait for secondary IOL 3 months after the surgery. The IOL of choice is scleral fixated intraocular lenses. Okay, just I will play the video in short. This is I am putting the side port, injecting the trypan blue. This is synecholysis. I am using the with spatula. And main port entry. And here we are using mechanical devices like Melineer ring for injecting the entry chamber and applying the iris borders. Okay, other devices is available, but there is I didn't use BHX. I think that is also good device to dilate it. After that, capsular access, you have to minimum maintain 5 mm. And hydrodissection and phacoemulsification. It is a soft cataract. Usually, if it is hard cataract, you can go for a vertical chop, the center of the pupil, and you should not go behind the pupillary margin. And epinucleus is very sticky and cortex. Aspiration is difficult part of this phacoemulsification procedure. At the end, I am going to inject heparin coated single piece acrylic IOLs. At the end of the surgery, going to inject the posterior subtenon transferrin injections in this complicated cataract patients. And after IOL implantation, we have to remove the valvular ring. Okay, post-operative management of these complicated patients. I'm going to prescribe corticosteroids, the intensive doses, prednisolone acetate every hour, along with topical NSAIDs and topical antibiotics 6 hourly. Even night time, you can use topical corticosteroid ointment, which prevents post-operative inflammation. Along with that, I am going to prescribe the Midratic, short-term Midratic tropicamide 6 hourly, which prevents post-operative pupillary synovial formation. And if you started like oral corticosteroid pre-operatively, you have to continue post-operative period depending on the severity of inflammation and IOP raise. And the most common complications associated post-operative in complicated cataract is post-operative intraocular inflammation. These patients have to treat with topical oral steroids, increase the dose and application of atropine ointment. Another is cystoid macular edema, more common, around 50% of the patients. I'm going to prescribe the posterior subtenon injections. And IOP rise is transient. You can use topical or systemic anti-glaucoma medications. One more late post-operative complications in these patients is PCO, around 35 to 80%. We have to do a NDI capsulotomy at the end of 6 months of the surgery. Conclusion: thorough ophthalmic assessment is needed before surgery, and eye should be questioned for 3 months. And anti-inflammatory medications we have to start pre and post-operative, and close follow-up of the patient is required to better visual outcome in these complicated cataract patients. Thank you.
Excellent talk, Dr. Siddharam. Now I invite Dr. Arvind sir to do talk on the pseudo exfoliation, phacoin pseudo exfoliation.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear.
so I will be discussing regarding the pearls of doing successful phacoemulsification in the patient suffering from pseudo exfoliation syndrome. So history, it is known as the disease of Vikings or the Scandinavia people. And in 1917, John Lindbergh, a resident, started working on the Axenfeld-Rieger syndrome prevalence in adult population, and he ended by get to know regarding the pseudo exfoliation syndrome. And then the American scientist Georgiana Devereux-Theobald, she coined the term this true pseudo exfoliation, because this true exfoliation is seen in the glass blowers, and pseudo exfoliation is seen in the other population and other parts of world. It has 0% incidence in the age group of less than 49 years and 6.25% if the population is more than 80 years. In Australia, it is 5% in the more than 80 years population in the Australian population, 5% in US, and 61% in more than 85-year of age group in the Swedish population. So it is an age-related, genetically determined LOXL1 gene environment-related multifactorial systemic disease. You can see 3-ring sign in this picture, here at the edge of the pupillary margin, then 2 in the center. So there is deposition of whitish gray pseudo exfoliation fibrillogranular amyloid-like material, and highest prevalence in Scandinavia and in colder regions. Incidence is equal in male to female, but no population, races or region is free, as it is commonly seen in India also, at all parts of the India. So the pathogenesis, there is jonular weakness, there is poor pupillary dilatation, and it got accumulated, this material at the endothelia, anterior capsule, iris, trabecular meshwork, at the lens jonules. It is also seen in heart, lung, liver, kidney, meninges, and in the blood vessels also. And its incidence is more with the patients of systemic hypertension, angina, aortic aneurysm, CVD, and stroke. Other complications are also there in these kind of patients. There is an unstable crystalline lens during surgery, vitreous loss, nuclear luxation, and decentration of intraocular lens. And there can be trans-illumination defects. Post-operative flare and fibrinous reaction is quite commonly. And secondary to decreased cell density and morphology of endothelia, endothelial decompensation is also common. And secondary to raised intraocular pressure, flare, iris ischemia, it gets deposited in between endothelia and Descemet's membrane. So there are more chances of decompensation. And also there are chances of secondary open angle glaucoma. There are 4 times chances of open angle glaucoma in pseudo-exfoliating patient as compared to population without it. And so there is increased outflow obstruction and weak and thin lamina cribrosa. So there is early development and progression of visual field changes and optic disc cupping. So what are the surgical implications in the patients of pseudo-exfoliation? So there is jonular weakness, poor pupillary dilatation, and capsular phimosis. And if anterior chamber depth is less than 2.5 millimeter, it is indicative of high risk in such patients. So how to manage jonular dialysis? So you can place this capsular tension ring after capsular access. If more than 4 clock hours, Sioni segment is used. If more than 180 degree, ICCE, then pars plana lensectomy along with vitrectomy and SFIL can be placed. Also, retropupillary iris claw and ACIL are not indicated because there are already transillumination defect and iris atrophy is present. So that mid-iris stroma is not so healthy. So you can't put these retropupillary iris claw lenses and ACIL. So during the capsular access, we need to use smartly OVD, dispersive towards the endothelia, cohesive towards the capsule in moderate quantity only. And sharp instrument to overcome anterior capsule tension while initiating the capsular access. Then CTR can be placed and counter traction or anterior capsule by iris hooks can also be used, and Raxis side should be adequate 5.25 to 5.5 millimeter to avoid capsular phimosis. Hydrodissection should be gentle and at multiple places, and OVD between lens capsule and cortex. So for complete separation of the this lens segment from the capsule. During the chopping technique, anterior chamber collapse should be prevented during insertion and removal of instruments, and it should be maintained by continuous irrigation or moderate OVD in the anterior chamber. To prevent capsular herniation or complete capsular dialysis, we need to use stop and chop technique and jonular friendly terminal chop or direct chop when we are dealing with the hard cataract. Cortical removal should be tangential stripping in conjunction with the gentle centripetal movement. Dry removal with Simcoe cannula can also be done. And don't look at the clock, but look for better results in such kind of patients. IOL should be lazy hydrophobic one-piece PCIOL, and sulcus placement with jonular dialysis is not advised. So to tackle poor pupillary dilatation, we can use pre-op NSAID and proparacaine and IV cannulation to tackle sudden hypertony or hypotony. And block should be given peribulbar, choice of IOL, one-piece hydrophobic apparent coated. So to manage corneal age, SPMC 2%, shallow AC, viscosandwich technique, post-operative capsular phimosis prevention, 5 to 5.5 millimeter axis, and iris hooks or ring in the non-dilating pupil. Floppy iris, we need to deal with the viscoelastic, jonular weakness. Then we have CTR and all that, Sionis. So post-op period is also important. It should be multiple and long follow because capsular phimosis chances are more. Chances of decentration and IOP rise is also seen. So this is one video. It's a combined case of pseudoexfoliation with primary open angle glaucoma. So a triangular scleral flap is made for the trap procedure. Gentle dissection. Now you can see that pseudo-exfoliating ring around the capsular margin. So after trypan blue dye, you can see how much is the corneal age in this case. So now we go for the Raxis. It should be adequate. Now entry through that flap. Then the hydrodissection gently at multiple places. Now it's a soft cataract. So I prefer to keep 0 power and vacuum 250 and slowly phacoemulsified all the pieces. And our phaco probe should be in the center only. No need to go into the periphery to prevent any complication, because anterior chamber was also shallow in this case. Now we comes to the particle removal part. So at this time, from 6 to 8 o'clock, you can see jonular dialysis. So I stopped my procedure. So now placement of CTR in such cases. So this can happen at any time. So we need to be prepared with the CTR and the CONE segment. So after placement of this CTR, the surgery becomes quite easier than the placement of hydrophobic one-piece IOL, and the surgery is complete. In the next case, it's a very small pupil corneal haze pseudo-exfoliating patient and very shallow AC. It was 2.3 mm only. So I initiated the Raxis with the help of this cystitome. Now it's not completed, so I use this microcapillaraxis forceps, keeping all the forces toward the center, then the entry. One more side port entry because the nucleus is grade 3. Gentle hydrodissection in multiple places. Nucleus is freely moving. So I'm not a big fan of this pupillary devices, mechanical devices. So during the vertical chop, I was able to divide into 2 pieces, then further vertical chop. So now the surgery becomes quite easier. Now I have attached this Simcoe cannula to the phaco IA probe to have better control. Now the placement of the parent coated one-piece hydrophobic IOL. I will take 30-40 seconds more. The case is over. So in conclusion, cataract surgery in pseudo-exfoliation patients is quite possible. It can be easily done. Although it is challenging because of the weak zonules, compromised endothelia, and poor mydriasis, but it can be managed with meticulous planning, appropriate choice of intraocular lens, liberal use of OVD, and use of devices such as CTR, Gupta's ring, and the best one is the BHEX, and of course, under low phaco parameters with step-down phaco. Thank you.
That's wonderful talk, Dr. Arvind. It's a comprehensive.
Thank you, sir.
With all the details. Now I invite Dr. Teja to present a talk on phacoemulsification in soft cataracts.
So my question is with you, Sai sir. Means you have used all the devices. So sometimes this pupil is mid-dilated after using this mechanical devices. So what is your experience while dealing with such cases?
Yeah, particularly when we use iris hooks, those iris hooks can induce sphincter tears, microscopic tears, and result in atonic pupil. Yeah, such patients do have problems with the mid-dilated pupil. They may complain of glare, but it's always better to have a safe surgery than have a difficult situation.
So which devices you prefer? Means they have least such complications?
I prefer Gupta ring.
Okay.
It's very easy to use, and even the removal is very easy. But when we have a very small pupils in such situation, inserting this type of Gupta ring or
it becomes difficult. Yes,
it becomes really difficult. In such situations, we have to use either iris hooks or we have to do a sectoridectomy.
Yeah. But in the sphincterotomy, it keeps on coming into our phaco probe, so that becomes difficult. So it's better to go for iris hooks.
Yeah. It increases the terminal,
Yeah,
floppiness
absolutely.
of the iris. Yeah. Can you enumerate the tips for phaco in pseudo exfoliation?
Yeah.
For a beginner.
Yeah, they need to be patient at all these steps. While dealing with the pseudo exfoliating patient, the preoperative examination is the foremost thing. So slit lamp examination and the anterior chamber depth, the ECD, all these things are important. And if possible, do specular microscopy if you have at your center. That is very important because the endothelia is also compromised. As you have seen in all the in both the cases, corneal haze was present. So to prevent this corneal haze to have a better picture, you can put this 2% SPMC over the cornea at all these steps. You can tell your means the OT assistant or any resident who is helping you. So that gives a better visualization. Then the phaco sandwich technique means the dispersive towards the endothelia and the cohesive towards the capsule, anterior capsule, because anterior capsule is quite thin, it's quite fragile, and it can extend at any time in pseudo-exfoliating patient. So you need to be patient with all these steps. You can start with a sharp instrument with the cystitone. Then you can proceed along with the Uttarata forceps, or you can also use this microcapsulosis forceps also. Because when you are dealing with the very shallow AC, so you don't have so much of space. And while you are doing the capsular access, the Uttarata forceps, with the Uttarata forceps, the shallower capsule, it becomes more shallower. So then you can use this microcapsular access forceps. It's quite handy. So it will help you in making a good rhexis. When the pupil is small, keep at least some part of your rhexis, the blue stained rhexis, in this region, the dilated region. So it gives you a perception, the depth perception while doing the procedures like the hydrodissection and delineation. This is very important. And then again, you can use dispersive, this viscoelastic to separate this whole lens capsule from the posterior capsule, because it's quite sticky in pseudo-exfoliating patient, as per my experience. And this CTR and Sionis ring should be ready, because you require them all the time. I prefer to wait till any complication happens, if the, because there is no use in putting the CTR right after the rhexis. I always wait. That is my choice of surgery, because if you put during the while dealing with the harder cataract, the pupil start constricting, so it becomes difficult when the CTR is placed right after the rhexis. So I prefer to wait till any complication is happening. Only then I put this CTR or CONE segment, or I go for the other ICC or PPL, then the SFI. And never use this iris claw lenses in such kind of patient, because iris atrophy is there in all the patients. So the claw won't be able to stick there in the mid peripheral iris stroma. It becomes thinner and thinner, so it will be decentered in a while. So not to go for iris claw lens in ACIL also, because ACIL again causes a lot of reaction, and this pseudo exfoliating patient, they are prone to have more post-op reaction. So never use ACIL and iris claw. Better to go for SFIL. That is the best thing. If you don't have if you have more than 180 degree of jonular dialysis, so that is my
Can you
suggestion.
do SFIL in same sitting or second sitting into, sir?
I do it in the same sitting only.
Okay.
With the XNet technique, using the 26.5 gauge technique, and using this 3-piece lens, 3-piece foldable IOL.
While nucleus and cortex in pseudo exfoliative eyes, it will be a difficult. Any tips for the beginners?
Sorry?
While removing epinucleus and cortex,
yeah,
aspiration.
Yeah. It's a very important step. Very rightly said by you. So you can do this, means use dispersive this viscoelastic to have a separation from the posterior capsule. And also to have a better control, this Simcoe cannula can be attached to IO cannula of this phaco machine. So you have better control.
Yeah. And use lots of viscoelastic whenever they anterior chamber to collapse.
Yeah.
To prevent additional stress over the
Definitely. Because chances of capsular phimosis are also there in the longer follow-up run. So we need to have a good rhexis.
Yes.
And PCO chances are also more because of the tendency of this.
Many times the pseudo exfoliation process is an ongoing process. So suppose
it won't stop.
Surgery also for a few years later, the lens along with the bag may do subluxation.
It can come out.
So we should explain all these things to the patient, and we should be ready to do SFIOL in case there is a subluxation of the lens.
Yeah, proper counseling is the foremost thing while dealing with the complicated cataract, with the harder cataract, with the when the pupil is not dilating, with the pseudo exfoliating patient. So these cases are difficult, and needs to be tackled differently.
I think Dr. Teja has joined the group again, has become panelist.
Sorry for the interruption. Today I'll be talking about phacoemulsification in soft cataract. The term soft cataract was introduced by Dr. Percival Pott in late 18th century. It is a type of cataract where the nucleus of the lens is soft but opaque. Soft cataract is encountered in all age group, but most commonly encountered in pediatric and young adult age group. The management of soft cataract has increased nowadays because of the increased awareness and evolving lifestyle. Since we mostly encounter soft cataract in visually active young patients, we require meticulous preoperative workup and precise calculation of the IOL. So management of soft cataract has also been a part of refractive lens exchange and presbyopic lens exchange surgeries. By performing a careful slit lamp examination by grading the nuclear opalescence and color using the lens opacity classification system grade 1 and 2 classify as soft cataract. It is important to look for the posterior polar component as the management changes in this scenario. The choice of anesthesia is topical as we mostly encounter soft cataract in young and cooperative patients, but regional anesthesia is preferred in the presence of poor pupillary dilatation, presence of posterior polar component, corneal opacity, etc. As for any surgery, judicious settings of the parameters is essential. For the management of soft cataract, less phacoenergy up to 20% with a fair amount of vacuum of 150 to 200 mmHg and aspiration flow rate of 22 to 25 ml per minute is sufficient. The nuclear material stays at the tip and there is less chance of surge. Coming on to the challenges faced during the cataract surgery, the soft cataract is too soft blend itself with the standard procedures of nuclear disassembly. This hydrodissection may result in prolapse of the nucleus into the anterior chamber. Hence, and it is difficult to relocate it back into the capsular bag. It was also for many, it may present as a challenge to rotate the nucleus since the Dehling instrument tend to pass through the nucleus without exerting much rotational torque. For the same reason, it is difficult to chop or even crack the lens matter because it tends to be sticky and there is difficulty in separating it from the capsular bag, especially in the presence of very thick epinuclear sheath. Sculpting increases the risk of early capsular tear during the groove creation as there is a risk of the phacotip going rapidly through the soft lens matter and through the posterior capsule. Soft nuclei lack rigid cleavage planes and do not crack or chop. Using a high vacuum to impel the nucleus for chopping results in soft lens material getting aspirated into the phacotip with resultant loss of holding power, which converts the nucleus into a ball. With further attempts, this ball gets converted into a plate, which further increases the management difficulty. For the capsular excess, staining of the capsule with trypan blue is essential. Good amount of is essential to maintain good workspace. It is ideal to aim for the rhexis of 5 to 5.5 mm, not to just for the IOL to overlap around it, but also for the safety of the lens material to be removed in most of the situations. Coming on to the hydro procedures, with the intact posterior capsule, we try to perform a hydrodissection. Hydrodenillation is avoided because of the thick epinuclear sheath. A single wave during the cortical cleavage hydrodissection may not effectively separate the tacky lens material. Hence, multiple quadrant hydrodissection ensures successful separation, which is confirmed by rotating the nucleus with the Sinskey's hook. The nuclear management standard technique is to sculpt and debulk the central core of the soft nucleus to convert it into a ball. Then the distal ball is held with just enough vacuum to try and pull the ball to the center of the bag. Once the nucleus is flipped, it is aspirated en masse and tried to not piecemeal. Most of the nucleus is sufficiently enough to phaco-emulsify. This technique, however, works faster than chip and flip, where the nucleus is converted into a ball and then into a plate and subsequently lifted out of the bag. In tilt and tumble technique, which is a modified form of supracapsular phaco, it comprises of, after continuous slow hydrodissection, the nucleus tilts on one side out of the capsular bag, which is then rotated to face the incision. The phaco tip then nibbles the outer edge of the nucleus, leaving the center of the cataract for the last. In phaco flip technique, after completing the hydrodissection with the lens spatula, the nucleus is engaged at 12 o'clock, gently pushed towards 6 o'clock, which causes the inferior equator of the nucleus to be resting in the anterior chamber facing the back of the cornea. Routine phaco is done. In supracapsular technique, the nucleus is completely hydroprolapsed and lies in the supracapsular plane. Care to be taken for the corneal endothelium, hence excessive use of viscoelastic devices is used. For the epinuclear sheath management, if the proper cortical cleavage is done, hydrodissection will lead to less residual epinuclear sheath. Sometimes with the thick epinuclear sheath, the phaco tip is slowly used and carouseled out of the bag and preferably in toto and aspirated with zero power and low vacuum using short bursts. After the removal of the cortical matter by using bimanual irrigation aspiration cannula, the capsular bag is inflated with viscoelastic device and intraocular IOL is placed. They are performing the capsulorhexis. We can see that the nucleus is very soft. With the clear corneal incision, we are entering the anterior chamber. With the hydrodissection, we can see that the entire nucleus has collapsed into the anterior chamber. We are inserting the viscoelastic. Phaco is being done. The nucleus flipped, as we can observe. Even now, we can see the very thick epinuclear sheath in the capsular bag. With the Simcoe irrigation aspiration cannula, they are trying to separate the epinuclear sheath. After inflating the capsular bag with viscoelastic device, we are introducing the foldable intraocular IOL. After the visco wash, the surgery is completed. Thank you. Sorry for the delay, sir.
So, Dr. Siddharam, what are your take to deal while dealing with such softer cataract? 2 or 3 tips.
There is better we have to bring. Sometimes you have to operate in the bag. Most of the time, when you do hydrodissection, nucleus will come up. You can operate in the pupillary margin
Okay.
with low energy.
Hmm.
Low energy, you can use it more.
You are only using the vacuum.
Yeah, using the vacuum. Vacuum will be more 200 to 300. You can use it.
And if there is PPC also?
PPC is there, then you have to, instead of hydrodissection, you will go for hydrodelineation. Okay, first you have to like periphery, you have to finish the
Yeah,
phaco.
rightly said.
Then you have to come the center.
Yeah.
And if we encounter the rent, you can use viscoelastic and patch up and finish the phaco. And then you can put, depending on the rent, you can use in the capsular bag, or depending on that, you can go for IOS.
Yeah, very rightly said.
That's a
Orange
wonderful
bar कीजिए.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sai.
Thank you.
Thank
I once again thank Chairman Scientific Committee for giving this opportunity. I thank my co-panelists for their wonderful contributions. Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank you.
good day.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, sir.